Muhammed West is our guest, and he's in a class at this moment in time. And we appreciate your time, Muhammad. It's great to have you with us on the executive committee of the MJC, Muslim Judicial Council. We're talking about the murder of Islamic scholar and queer activist Muhsin Hendricks. Of course, shockwaves through the country. We're busy trying to make sense of this at this moment in time. And I know the MJC said that while it had consistently maintained that the deceased's position was incompatible with Islamic teachings, it condemned Hendricks' murder and any acts of violence targeting members of the LGBTQI plus community. There is some consensus gathering around it being a hate crime. Muhammad, what is your position at this moment in time?
Hi, good day, Clarence, and hello to all the listeners. Thank you for having me. So, as far as I know, and as far as the MJC at the moment, we don't have any official details from the authorities. It is ongoing, and one of the unknowns is the motive for this horrible crime. It is a murder nonetheless, and we obviously condemn all murder. But undoubtedly, the comments that have been coming through and the WhatsApp messages that have said to speaking to the motive behind it, it appears to be and I think that is why the MJC is showing leadership in saying that we can't have any violence, even abuse online to any community within South Africa, the LGBT community, particularly in this instance, but any community in general.
And you've seen an uptick in such abuse, online abuse as well.
Yeah, I have seen some of the comments, and there are and it's quite diverse. There's comments that are hateful towards the LGBT community, and there are comments, of course, aimed at us at the MJC for not being stern or harsh in our language. And I think it's really for us to show leadership and saying that we live in a pluralistic society. We have our varying views when it comes to theology and morality. We've lived peacefully side by side. I mean, Mr. Hendricks, lived all his life in Cape Town. His center is in Wynberg. And even though we had many robust discussions and differences and serious differences on this issue, there's never been an incitement to violence. There's never been intimidation against him. And so this is why, from our side at least, from the MJC side at least, and that is why we condemn this act of violence.
Yeah. Just from the conversations that we heard, interviews conducted with Islamic scholar and queer activist Muhsin Hendricks, it appears as if he wanted to reconcile his belief, his faith, with his sexual identity. He believed it was reconcilable. You hold out as the Muslim Judicial Council that it is not reconcilable.
No, I wouldn't say that. When it comes to sexuality or any sexual act, it is governed by Islamic law. So whether it is an extra sex, these have to be confined within a marriage contract, and that's the rules. And we're happy to have any kind of conversation around interpretation if it is grounded in the text. But let's say someone, whether it's alcohol, whether it is gambling, we know Islamic law doesn't allow for such things. But if someone says, look, nonetheless, I'm a Muslim, I'm an adherent of the faith, I believe in the Quran, I believe in the religion, but I do, I live my life and there are things which are not in line, we are all sinners. What does that do? That does not expel you from the faith. And similarly, in this regard, it is no different if someone has an extramarital affair or when they're in a same-sex relationship. So long as they understand that this is what these are the rules, you're still a member of the faith. And that has always been the MJC's position. That does not expel you from the faith.
Yeah, it is a hate crime that played out in Gqeberha, and there's a lot of information that is emerging around this. Does the MJC have a clear view on sexuality in general?
Well, we view in terms of Islam. Islam is very open to sex in general, and it regulates what is permissible and not permissible. The same way it regulates what you can and may not eat, what you may and may not wear, and it's up to you as subscribe to that views and values and implement it. I mean, that is your personal choice. So when it comes to the discussion around sexuality, for example, Islam is very clear that, no one is condemned. I mean, I have feelings, I have desires, and we live in a society where you can choose to act on those desires or not. Islam celebrates that Ramadan is coming up. I'm going to feel hungry during the day, but I subdue that urge in obedience to the faith, and you're celebrated for that. If you then act on those impulses, that's just like anybody else that does something that they're not supposed to. We have a support mechanism to say that you have access to God. That's your person. You don't have to confess to us as the MJC, and we're there to facilitate your path of getting closer to God. I think it's not any other of the rules within Islam that is, where there are do's and don'ts.
Can we conclude that the relationship between the MJC and the LGBTQI plus community is one of engagement and tolerance then in the wake of what you've just said?
Yes, and I can definitely say that, and I can speak about myself personally. I mean, as an imam, you have many people that would come, and whether it's an interfaith marriage or a same-sex marriage, I have openly said that, the dialogue is very clear. I'm not vested in making anybody's life difficult. In fact, I would love to find a way where you can reconcile your lifestyle with the religion, and I would look for ways where the religion can accommodate you, whether it's a business transaction, whether it's whatever it might be. But then I would say to them, I am grounded and I am confined to the laws of the faith, and we can discuss the opinion. And on this issue, there is virtual consensus over 1,500 years. There isn't the type of patriarchy that is imposing its will. This is the text, black and white.
Okay, we appreciate your time, and we know that you've got other commitments. Thank you, Muhammed West, on the Executive Committee of MJC, Muslim cleric, joining us in conversation around, of course, murdered Islamic scholar and queer activist Muhsin Hendricks. I think there'll be lots more conversation around this event that played out in Gqeberha over the weekend.